Everyone, please welcome Dr. Philippa Hardman.
Hi. Hey, folks. And yeah, I was just thinking I've been in this room now for almost 2 hours, and I think that is officially the longest it's been since December 2022 that I've not said or heard the words artificial intelligence. So yeah, I'm very much aware of this concept of AI fatigue, but I hope that today I am able to make a little bit more sense of what artificial intelligence is and what it might mean for us specifically as educators. I don't think that we talk enough about that in the education sector, and so yes, that's my job. And as you can see, what I'd like to talk about today is the risks of not adopting AI in higher education. Now, that makes it seem like I guess I am on a mission, but I am mostly on a mission to understand what the impact of AI might be. I think the answer is that nobody knows quite yet what the impact of AI is in higher education. I'm not suggesting that I have the answer, but I have been doing a lot of research over the past 5-6 years now into what AI could mean for higher education. And as you can imagine, over the last 18 months, so since generative AI basically became more accessible, since it kind of exploded in our faces in December 2022, I've been working a lot on the ground with educators in higher education to ask the question, like, what does this mean for the institution, for the teachers, and for the students. So I'm just going to really, my mission is, I guess, to research in public, and that's what I'm going to do today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by giving you like an overview. In fact, most of today is just going to be an overview of the reaction that we've seen in the last 18 months to AI in higher education globally. And I've split it into 3 chapters, and the first chapter, which takes us back to December 2022, and the introduction of GPT 3.5 is panic, because this is what happened generally around the world. And so, yeah, if we go back to December 2022, there were a lot of, I think, a lot of people talking about a lot of different risks that AI posed. Things like, I don't know, student data privacy, GDPR, AI's biases, of course. The algorithms of AI, we know, are incredibly biased. And so if our students are using AI, if we're using AI as educators, what does that mean for the sorts of information that we're accessing? But overwhelmingly, the debate centered around the threat that AI posed to academic integrity. And I'm sharing this particular article. It's one of many that was published early 2023, I think it was. And basically, the question that this kind of research raised was that if AI can write an essay as well as, or as this research suggests, better than the average student, then what does that mean for academic integrity? What does that mean actually for the identity, the purpose of what we do every single day as higher education? And as I say, the reaction was one, first and foremost, of panic. And out of that panic came a bit of a knee-jerk reaction where many institutions, and some are still here in this place, I should say. This is all both historic and present. Some are still doing this. So essentially what we did is we said, well, if robots might be writing essays, then let's get everybody to write essays in the classroom where we can keep an eye on them and make sure they're not on ChatGPT. And so I think this is a very short-term, impractical solution that's it's already actually proven in most cases to be totally unscalable. And if we keep in mind that the conversation that we've had about higher education in the last 10 years has been all about how we scale it, to return to the classroom really goes against most of the things that we've been working towards for an awful long time. It was, however, a short-term kind of, I guess, a plaster put on a very open wound, and in some universities we're still doing this, but generally speaking, we've decided, as I say, that it just is impractical. And so I think aware of this, and aware, I think, of the the commercial benefits of introducing new sorts of technologies, very, very quickly we saw technology companies like Turnitin, who've already developed plagiarism technologies, developing so-called AI detection technologies. So rather than monitoring people in the room by just watching them write essays, how about we instead monitor them through technology? So ironically, using AI, we see the introduction early 2023 of a whole range of AI detection technologies which claim to be able to differentiate between an essay written by a human and one written by AI. And I say claim because actually very, very soon we realize that they're just not very good. AI just isn't smart enough to be able to do this well yet. And I think one of the things that I'd like to share with you today, if you're not aware of it already, is that I think we are heading to a bit of a crisis here. Many, many institutions have invested in AI detection technologies. Many of them are still in the process of investing in these technologies, but we know that they don't work. They don't work well enough. And so when we've done like close testing of the success rate, so we've had humans make the same judgments as the machines, we found that only in about 26% of the cases does ChatGPT, does AI get the assessment between whether it's human or machine entirely correct. And I think there's another, maybe even more important or as important problem, and that is that AI detection technologies are also deeply biased in themselves. So as you can see here, detection technologies unintentionally, because of the way that they've been trained to understand what it means to be human and what it means to write like a human, what we find is that non-native English speakers in particular are labeled as robots, as AI. And so we're creating a system which is very, very problematic for institutions which are trying to pursue strategies of like inclusiveness and equity. The other big problem with AI detection technologies is that there is, like, meanwhile, just as fast, if not faster actually, than that edtech companies like Turnitin were able to build AI detection technologies. We have like revenge of the nerds in the background, students typically building technologies like anti-AI detection technologies, which actually are very good. And so if you look, it's now big business. There's a product called Conch, there's undetectable, whatever. But as you can see, what it does is it takes your AI-generated essay and humanizes it so that you can then submit it to Turnitin and tell it that it's a human. And so we're caught in this strange game of kind of cat and mouse where AI has like caused this problem and university leadership are trying to solve the problem with AI detection technologies. But already, like, the students are way ahead and are innovating in their own way. So AI is like this strange, like, protagonist and the cause of the problem, and then the solution to the problem for both the institution and the student. And it's kind of a crazy situation, but many, many institutions are caught in this loop right now. And so the question that I've been asking over the past few months is, I think there's been a lot of debate, primarily the debate about AI in higher education has been that AI erodes academic integrity, that by enabling students to use machines to write essays, it basically makes a mockery of the system. But my question is, if we use AI to essentially monitor our students more, and if we use AI in a way that kind of engages in this strange game of cat and mouse, I would argue that actually we've done more over the last 12 months to erode academic integrity by attempting to ban AI. By protecting to save the essay, we've actually created a system which kind of communicates less trust to our students. There is much more monitoring, and in the use of AI detection technologies, there is much less equity. And the system has become very problematic. Chapter 2. So this chapter is, broadly speaking, let's say from mid-2023 towards the end of 2023. And this is the period of research. So this is a period where where initially we believed in higher education that we could ban AI, that we could detect it and get rid of it, and it's cleaned up and it's brilliant. Like, we have already a culture and a history of detecting and finding plagiarism, we can just do that. But actually we very soon started to find that we weren't doing that very well, and also that the solutions were, as I said, not scalable. So it's just not practical to bring everyone back into the room. And so what we see from early to mid 2023 is lots of research into, well, what could it look like actually if we embraced AI? Are there any benefits to thinking about this problem in a different way? And what we saw was the emergence of kind of two streams of research. One, all about AI for efficiency. So as higher education institutions, can we use AI in a way that oils the machine, in a way that increases our return on investment, our effectiveness, but also our efficiency? And then the second, so this was very much like institution and educator focused, and that's where we started. And it's very much a kind of practical leadership kind of level question. But we also started to ask, actually, if we embrace AI, could it actually enable us to deliver a better experience and more impact for our students? And so if 2022 going into 2023 was like the era of panic, we now see the era of research, formal research by academics. So this is not necessarily stuff happening on the ground, but it is stuff happening in ivory towers. And we find some really interesting statistics. So what we found very quickly is that AI can be a very powerful tool for efficiency. And on average, I've looked through lots and lots and lots of studies. I would encourage you to have a look yourselves. I'll share these slides afterwards so you can dig into the research. But we find around about a 40% increase in educator and institutional efficiency. So to give you a really concrete example, grading. If you have a really great AI-powered grading system, then I can become 40% faster in the grading process. There's also lots of other examples, use cases. There are use cases of people using AI to analyze student data and take a data-informed approach to learning design. And there are also examples of people using AI to create content very quickly. That's probably one of the use cases you're most familiar with, I would guess. We've all seen tools like Synthesia, HeyGen, basically text to video, text to image, short-form text to long-form lecture. People are using this, and they are becoming, on average, in higher ed, 40% more efficient. It's also happening on an institutional level, which is interesting, I think. So, for example, admissions processes are now being improved through the use of AI. So there's a lot happening in terms of efficiency. For me, more interestingly, where I tend to focus my own research, but is to think about, well, could it actually make us more effective as teachers? And the answer is yes, or so the research so far suggests. So we start to see more and more controlled studies of what's the impact when we use AI to design and deliver and evaluate learning in higher education. What is the impact on students? And on average, these are the sorts of statistics that we're seeing emerge. So we're seeing a 50% increase in student engagement compared with the pre-AI model, 25% increases in achievement, and 30% increases in retention. So there's still a lot more research to do, but what this shows, what this indicates, is that AI is not necessarily bad news for higher education, that it might actually be a very interesting tool through which we can innovate the learning experience. And I should say, just to give you some examples, the sorts of ways in which these researchers experimented here was through really two main channels. So one was using AI to differentiate the learning experience. So to still, yes, deliver a lecture, but then be able to very quickly identify different learner profiles and provide them with personalized, customized, however you want to call it, but more relevant and engaging material very, very quickly on a scale that they haven't been able to before. So that's one, the use of AI for more personalized learning. And then the second channel has been experimentations with chatbots, AI tutors. And this goes back to the, I think Giovanni was mentioning this before, and also the award-winning teachers, sorry, I forget your names, but bravo. But this idea that we can use AI, we get caught up in the terms like chatbot, intelligent tutoring system, whatever it is, what it is effectively is the ability to scale personalized feedback, always on feedback. And as educators, feedback is our #1 superpower. The more feedback that students get, the more succinct and targeted and actionable that it is, but also just the quantity, we see significant increases in achievement. So that's the reason that we're seeing these kind of statistics emerge. And then today, yeah, I just, in advance of today, I just very quickly also asked the question, is there any research specifically for business education which might be particularly of interest to you? The answer is yes. I would encourage you to read at least these 2 papers, but we're seeing the same patterns. So for business educators, we're seeing that by using AI to help with admin and with content creation, we're seeing a 40% increase in educator efficiency. And then, apologies for the positioning of that, but we're also seeing, and I would really recommend that you read the research of Ria Pina, who's done quite a broad assessment of the potential impact of AI on business education. But again, as a result of personalizing the learning experience and bringing in intelligent tutors, but effectively providing AI support throughout the learning experience, we see very similar stats. In fact, the stats are the same. They're consistent across most disciplines, which I think is interesting. And then the third and final chapter is one of experimentation. So from like mid to late 2023 onwards, we have seen more and more educators on the ground responding to this research and experimenting actively with various different methods in their classrooms. There have been a number of large-scale experiments, which again I would really encourage you to dig into. The USA is way ahead of Europe and Asia on this. These are just 2 examples, actually. Arizona State University, which got very excited by some of that initial research that we just saw, have now, they have an official, formal relationship with OpenAI, and they are actively exploring with their educators on the ground the impact that AI could have both on their efficiency and on student outcomes, so on effectiveness. We also see this at the University of Michigan, that has a whole host of different in-house built, and this is the pattern that we're seeing, that there are concerns over the trustworthiness of AI, over the biases of AI, and so what institutions are doing is creating closed versions of those large language models, which are tailored to the institution's specific needs. We're seeing that also in the corporate sector, so for corporates, we're seeing the emergence base give lots of different bots. So Mazy is a TA which educators can use to scale feedback. So it's very simple to train, and they are now able to have much larger classes and to provide always-on feedback to all of their students based on input data from them and their course. So you effectively scaled the educator. And yeah, ASU is experimenting with very similar things. Broadly speaking, we're seeing a kind of AI being used for both academic and pastoral care. So there's also some interesting work going on at the University of Illinois, where there is an always-on bot for student well-being, and they're seeing positive impact there on student satisfaction and lower rates of reliance on human welfare officers and this kind of thing. And so I think maybe the main point today is just to let you know that if you weren't aware, all of this is going on, and I think there are a lot of educators who are benefiting quite a lot from AI, both in terms of, I guess, delegating an amount of stuff that's just low value, but highly time consuming. And then by freeing up that time, what those educators are doing is they're able to experiment with AI, do some A/B testing, and test the impact that it could have on the students on the ground. And one question I get asked a lot is okay, how do I start? Where do I start if I want to do this? And this is this is always my answer. So I think, and spoiler, this is also what I'm going to be playing with in the parallel sessions. If anyone wants to come and start to get hands-on, this is how to go from 0 to 1, 2, and then 3 as an educator. So I think, first of all, it's about thinking about which elements of your administrative stuff, what's that low-hanging fruit, that low-value but highly time-consuming work that you do, and can AI be used, can you delegate that work to AI? And what that does is it frees up time to then explore how you might be able to innovate your curriculum. So instead of trying to find ways as an institution to save the essay, what we're seeing more and more is educators embracing AI. In fact, in my classroom, so I still teach, it is required that my students use AI in everything that they do. Always use it, never trust it, is basically my AI manifesto. And so what we're seeing is the emergence of these so-called AI-proof, but actually much more dynamic, and what we know from the research, much more effective assessments, which are no longer tell me everything I said in an essay, which I know is an oversimplification, but it's less based on the student's ability to regurgitate content, and we're seeing a shift towards more project-based approaches, more process-based assessment, where we're starting to assess not just the knowledge that you show, but also your ability, your skills in the process of completing projects and working with AI. And I think what that does, what's really important there, is that the World Economic Forum have already told us that like the majority of roles within the next 1 year will be very AI-centric. And so there is a question here for me, again, to go back to this point about integrity. Do we, by banning AI, in my view, we lack integrity in that we fail to serve our students, we fail to prepare them for the real world. So I think we need to start thinking more and more about how do we incorporate AI into our curriculums and into our assessments in a way that ensures that we are creating not just people with domain expertise, but also with the expertise that they're going to need in the workplace when they leave higher education. And then the third and final, sometimes people start here, there's been an awful lot of conversation about AI bots and this kind of thing. Actually, this comes later. I think once we have innovated the curriculum, then we can then start to think about ways in which we can, for example, scale feedback on more hands-on problem and project-based approaches. So yeah, if you are going to start from scratch, start with the easy stuff, start with the stuff that only impacts you, start with the efficiency stuff, and then start to progress to test the effectiveness and then scalability of your approach. And there's loads of examples out there, very happy to share them, including those research papers that I just showed earlier. And so, yeah, I guess the question I'd like to leave with you today is this. I think if you were to just do like a straw poll of everybody in higher education, we've very much been told that AI is a risk, it's a threat. It compromises academic integrity, whereas I think there is a very strong case to be made in the opposite direction, that actually by attempting to ban AI, we fail to serve our students as well as we might. We fail to trust them and communicate trust to them in a way that we should. And we also fail potentially to include everybody equally in the education experience because of the biases that are inherent in AI detection technologies. And so I guess I would just encourage you to think about, I think there are two roads that we could travel down now. One is that we continue to try to protect the essay, and maybe that's where we go. Maybe we keep the teaching and learning and assessment process exactly as it is today. Or we take this as an unprecedented, I think, opportunity to increase the usefulness, the value, and the relevance of higher education. I think there is a huge existential risk, and this again is just my opinion, but that we become deeply irrelevant if we choose to resist this change. Maybe that's what we want. I know a lot of people quite like just, to sit in a library and be quiet. I mean, myself included. But I think we need to be careful. And I think what we'll see in practice, what we're already seeing in practice is that universities are developing different USPs. So some are very traditional, we're not embracing AI, we're coming back into the classroom, and that's now becoming part of their identity, that if you want to study here, you have to be able to come here, and you will be monitored and we'll watch you do your essay. It's kind of like, historical chic, Victorian chic. And then we're also seeing then on the other side, universities which are much more positive and embracing of AI. And generally the split between those two are traditional research universities over here, where I think teaching innovation matters less. The cell of teaching being effective matters less. And then in UK terms, like ex-polytechnics, more teaching-based universities over here are doing much more innovation and thinking much more, I would say, in a smart way about the threat/opportunity of AI. So yeah, that's all from me. Give me a follow if you're interested in all things AI and learning. But yeah, thank you very much for your attention.